Hey, Vaibhav again from TechRail, and today I'm gonna be doing a few things. First one is I'm gonna read this article that I wrote. This is July 02. I guess I set it to that date when I started writing it. But anyways, let's let go of the date. The point in this article that I want to make is how to set up SQLite or how to configure SQLite, because SQLite itself says that it is zero configuration database, which it is. So let me get into this a bit, and in the end, maybe we'll fix up a few things in the code as well. So I've just pushed it, setting pragma directives, and this actually fixes this issue, right? When we start chamber, we would have to rely upon certain behavior from SQLite. For example, we would need foreign keys enabled, journaling system set to wall, which I have actually changed, uh, synchronous disk writes to avoid any data corruption, and so on. So we need to create a set of functions which we can use to check if those settings, which are called pragmas in SQLite, have been applied to the current connection or not. So that's what the post is all about, and what pragmas are, how they behave. And I'll give you let me make this a bit smaller so that it would be easier for me to show what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me first clear. And we are in a code TMP chamber path. If you have seen earlier videos, that's where I was keeping my chamber file while developing. Okay, so I've been working with Postgres almost my entire career, and both of these databases are what I started with. And with time, Postgres actually appealed more to me, and so everything I built later on was on Postgres, not on MySQL. And I remember correctly, I think it was that MySQL's default table was over InnoDB engine. And InnoDB back then did not enforce a lot of things. I think foreign keys were not present, not sure, but I clearly remember that the check constraints were not being honored. Like you could have a year of birth column in your database, in your table, and you can create a check constraint against that, saying, hey, I'm not going to accept a year of birth less than 1900. And if you tried to enter say 1850, it would still accept. So you could write a check constraint. MySQL will say it has accepted it, it has created a constraint, but it will not honor it. That is a bummer. At that point I thought, I don't know what all it does and what it does not. I mean, that is undefined behavior. That's, if you're not going to honor that check constraints, let me know. It didn't. So that was the place where I pivoted towards Postgres, which had much better behavior. It did what it said, and it did it in a robust way. So anyway, that's a little bit of a backstory on why I used Postgres for almost my entire career. With time, the way it works became habit, and the way one configures, or at least the basics of how we configure Postgres, it became a muscle memory of sorts. So you want to create, I mean, if you install a new OS, say Linux, or let's say you are on a new machine on Mac and you want to start off with a Postgres database, how do you set it up? That more or less became a habit. So it was easier for me to configure Postgres down the line. It's the first time I'm working with SQLite. Yes, I've used SQLite in the past a little bit here and there, but I never took it seriously. And I think the word light in there is to blame. I thought, okay, I always thought it's a kind of a playground. It's a toy database. I mean, it's the database that goes along with you wherever you go. You have iTunes, probably there's some, I mean, iTunes is no longer there, but I'm an old guy. So, I mean, iTunes, from what I remember, used SQLite. You have got SQLite in Android, you have got SQLite in many other applications, and so on, right? So, it should be a toy database, nothing serious, right? So, that name is confusing. I mean, once you remove this light, there is a monster underneath. But if you start reading a little bit about it, you will see that it does not have a Boolean type. I mean, what kind of a serious database doesn't have a Boolean type? Booleans are everywhere. Yes, no, I don't know. Right? Those are three options. I don't know. That's null. Yes and no. True or false. Good enough. But SQLite doesn't support that. It only supports integers. Also, if you let's see PostgreSQL integer types. Okay, this is, I don't know why 8.1 is here, but oh, okay, that is the section number. Numeric type. I mean, look at integer types. These are integer. Like, there are three different integers here. There are more floating point numbers. There are so many ways to store a number. And what does SQLite have to say? Just have a look. It has got 5 types. That's it. There is null, there is integer, there is real, there is text, there is blob. That's it. Integer, it doesn't even say how much, what's the range, what's the size or width of this field. It just says it is a storage class, right? So it doesn't look like serious. It doesn't look like properly defined, right? That, at least that's what I thought. Now there is the goat section. If I go here, the goat right here, and I wrote it before anything else, but I was getting digressed, so I moved it at the end. So let's start with this. Let's get pragmatic. Now the word pragmatic, if you search for it, so let me just define pragmatic. Dealing with problems in a practical way rather than by following ideas or principles. Practicality, that's what it means, right? So pragmatic is why some languages use the word keyword pragma. I think C sharp and C++, they use it. I remember reading those, at least one of those languages, and encountering this. This was more of a directive, you could say hash pragma, something like that. So selecting the way things will work, or for telling the compiler, hey, if you are in Windows, do this, or something like that, right? So SQLite says it's a zero configuration database, and it is. You can just open a DB file, you can start working on it without a worry in the world. In most cases, you'll be safe enough, right? However, there are multiple behaviors that it lets you change. The good and the bad part of that is it is per connection. When you read per connection, you have to remember that this guy does not have, the SQLite, it does not have a server. It's an in-process database. So if you have a tool where you have embedded SQLite, that tool tries to open a file, and that's it. That is the connection, right? So if you open a database with SQLite, your file handler along with your driver is what the connection is. That's it. There is no server. There is no per se client. You're reading of the database. The code base that actually reads the database is the one that will run on it. Filter the data, look at the indexes, create a query path, plan, whatever, however the database is structured. That's all inside the tool, the library that you're using, at least on the C level, right? I'm not using the C one, but this is how SQLite is designed. So this is quite different from the way I had been using so far. Typically, you will configure your database using a config file, start a daemon, connect your clients, not with SQLite. And for what SQLite was designed for, I think that is great. I don't want to configure a database before I open it. If you try to configure a database before you open it without having any file, I guess you'll have to keep those configurations inside the database itself, which is not a great thing, probably. So for what SQLite was designed for, I think it is good enough. So now comes the pragma directives. There's something called as a pragma. Okay, these are directives, and you can look at them, and here is a link to go there. So let's go there. And okay, this statements. So pragma statements basically let you either set or get a value, and there are a number of pragmas that you can look at, right? So what are the pragmas that we are at least concerned with, and what can we do about it? Okay, there are multiple, as I just showed you. Each one controls a certain kind of behavior. Okay, you can query for the current value or set the value of your choice, and that is where the problems will start. Okay, so here is a screenshot. What do you see? What I have done here is, you are the same path where my ghosty was, my terminal was, and I'm going to open the same thing. Okay, I'm going to say SQLite 3, enter. Okay, and I'm going to say open chamber file dot open chamber file. It has opened, and let's say tables. It will show you the tables which are the same. Now let's say pragma foreign keys. Pragma foreign keys. By the way, let's see. It says foreign keys are set to 0. What happens if I misspell it? It will say nothing at all. This is not a value. Probably this behavior allows them to create a new pragma and maintain the backward compatibility without giving errors. I mean, if tomorrow they create a pragma called foreign key and the client is expecting an error, it will start failing, because now it shouldn't be returning an error, it should be returning a value in the future, right, when they introduce it. But the client would be expecting an error just to test. I mean, who knows who is relying on what behavior. So anyway, I don't know why they have done this, but if you ask for a pragma setting which does not exist, it replies with nothing. That's how it is. Now if you go and say pragma keys is equal to on, press enter, it says nothing. It accepted it. Now if you try to get it, it says 1. Wow. What if I try to set it to, let's say, hello? It says hello, accepted. Wonderful. But what is the current state? 0. Like, how is this working? I mean, give me an error. This is clearly not an acceptable value. If you go back to this and you go to foreign keys, it says boolean, right? And it should accept a boolean value. If you go at the top, it says boolean values can be either 1, yes, true, or on for truthy values, or 0, no, false, or off for falsy values. Hello is neither of those. I mean, when you say on, I'm saying yes, right? And it returns a 0 or 1. But why does it accept hello? And if it accepts hello, why does it set to 0? Like, how this is confusing, right? That's what I'm trying to point at. Similar stuff, that's what I've shown. Pragma journal mode, this is interesting. So if I go here and I go to the list and say journal mode, it says this is set. Okay, look at it. There are two forms. The first one is trying to get it, the second one is trying to set it. The options that you have for setting a journal mode are delete, truncate, persist, memory, wall, or off. What they do is described here. You can go read it. Okay, delete basically deletes the journal file after the transaction is complete. Truncate leaves the file but truncates it to 0. Persist, I think it leaves it there forever. Memory is putting all of these this file into memory. It's not recommended for integrity purposes. Wall is write ahead log, and off is like I'm not going to do any journaling at all. Anyways, that's not why we are here, right? So if I go to now something called synchronous, have a look here. It takes 3 values: off, normal, full. 4. 0 to 3, so 4. Off, normal, full, extra. What do they mean? That's here. You can go read it again. But when you try to set synchronous, I guess I have not. Oh, yeah, I have shown it. So when you try to set synchronous, you ask what is the value. It says 2. Synchronous is equal to 1. Now you ask it what is the value. It says 1. You can set it to full, which will give you the value 2. If you can set it to extra, and notice this time I have wrapped it in single quote, so it's more of a string than a keyword like it is here. It says 3. You can go and see extra is at 3. And if I say no, that's off. 0. How is this behaving, man? This is what I'm trying to show. So there are inconsistencies. Journal mode, on the other end, you say Pragma journal mode, it says delete. Let's do this. Pragma journal mode, it says delete. I want to say journal mode equal to, let's say, some garbage. It says delete. I'm not gonna set it. Delete is what I'm gonna set it to. Lovely. Now what if I say truncate? It now sets to truncate, right? But remember, it does not return any kind of integer here. It's returning whatever it has set, right? But in case of synchronous, let's do the Pragma synchronous thing. Pragma synchronous. See, 2. I want to set it to 3. It will accept 3. So some are enumerations, some are not, and then I remember checking one which gave me a strange tabular output. I don't know how this was organized, but yes, you have to be wary of what kind of values you are trying to set, but you're getting back, and what do you get back for what? Like, you can try to set 1 or 2 or 3 or 0 or whatever, and you can expect it to come back, but that is not the behavior that you'll get for journal mode. So every single Pragma directive, every setting that SQLite supports can have one of these formats: completely Boolean, uh, enumerated, and string enumerated, I would say. Like, I don't know, it's not exactly enumeration, but it limits the list of things that you can set, list of values you can set. And synchronous, it's enumerated, it always returns the integer. So that's what I have explained here. If you look at the first screenshot where I was doing journal mode in foreign keys, you'll see a Pragma named journal mode. This is another beast. Okay, let me actually read it. I'll read it fast. If you have followed my recent videos on Chamber, you know that I was keeping the Chamber file in that location. You can see me opening the file without open command. This what I did. Dance follows after that. I call it dance because I don't know how it's gonna move next and how it's gonna behave. If you want to check the value or set a new one for any Pragma setting, you use the Pragma query. It takes 2 forms. First is just sending Pragma with the Pragma name, and the other is Pragma name equal to Pragma value. The first form is to retrieve the current value as we did, like here. The other is to set the desired value, like here, this. Remember that SQLite is configuration free. There is nothing to configure. That means when you open the database, the value for each Pragma setting is the default one. For example, when we just opened and we said Pragma foreign keys, it was set to 0, off, right? We didn't set it. It's the default. So when you open the database, the value for each Pragma setting is the default one. For example, the default for foreign keys is set to false and journal mode is delete. But do you see the problem or the inconsistency? So being pragmatic with Pragma, here we are talking about inconsistencies. So Pragmas are usually enumerations and sometimes values. When I say values, I mean these can be free form values. Okay, they can be expressed as integers or strings. They can also be tabular in nature. That's inconsistent if you think of how you want to set configuration. But then maybe it's because of there is no Boolean type in SQLite. For these at least, purely Boolean ones. Right. There is yet another one. You see in the image above how I can set the value for foreign keys to on or off, but when asked to return the values, it always returns as either 0 or 1. Again, Boolean values, so you can excuse that, but isn't that inconsistent? Maybe accept 1 or 0 only for the setting and the values too. So just return the string on or off if that is what you want to do. But okay, 0 and 1 is a fairly accepted practice for SQLite. I'm sure there's a great explanation of why that is so, and I'm guessing backwards compatibility must be the reason because SQLite 3.0, I think it got released somewhere around 2006 or 7. That's 20 years back, approximately. Now, there are some which can accept both integers and the respective enumerated value. Okay, like this is yet another level of inconsistent. Why? While 0 and 1 represent boolean values, when setting a value you can use 1, true, yes or on, like I showed you on the SQLite documentation here. This part is what I'm explaining. And 0 false, no or off or falsy values, but that confusion does not end there. You can also set those non-integral values with or without single quotes. The synchronous one is a great example of that. Okay, you can check the screenshot below. The same thing that I had done so far. That is what I'm explaining. So what do you see? It's like it's a funny line that just came into my head. The creators of SQLite woke one morning and chose violence. Like this is not cognitive. This is cognitive load, not ease. So if you look at the first screenshot, you will see the PRAGMA in the journal mode, right? This one is a beast. Again, different kind of beast. The thing with that one is it accepts a string and returns a string. It does not return a enumeration, right? So you can say something like PRAGMA journal mode equal to paper and it will return delete back. And if you're trying to get it, it will not give you 1, 2, 3 or other number like synchronous is giving. It will give you delete, which is a string. That is inconsistent. And to put the cherry on the top, when working with these pragmas using Golang, again, I'm talking about the package that I'm using. Here's the link to the video where I've mentioned and showed it. I saw that integers being returned as strings. So that was a pleasant surprise because I did not have to write a separate function to handle directives. This is wrong. Sorry for that. Which were giving out integers and others for strings. So this comes back as a string as well. This 0, 3, 2, 1, they come back as strings. This also comes back as strings. So everything is a string. So I can easily create one function that expects a string as the result. Right? Having said that, since we are moving forward with thought and trying to offload any kind of highly sophisticated architecture for the code base while still keeping it organized, I have made the function for just setting the ones that I needed for chamber to be built. I'll cover those in an upcoming video. I'll show it. Now if you think that I was dissing SQLite over the minor inconvenience, well, yes and no. Yes, because it is new to me and I'm not seeing configs being managed like this. And no, because this is just one of the ways of doing things and I'm not saying it's inherently good or bad, it's just different. It caught me by surprise. As I'm building Chamber and digging a bit deeper into SQLite, I'm finding it very interesting. As a user of PostgreSQL for more than a decade, I think SQLite breaks many conventions set by the large databases and is yet an amazing one that mostly gets sidelined because of its own name, which is SQLite. Have you seen the logo? There is a feather in here. You see it? Feather? It says it's light. It's a monster, man. Okay. So the section I told you in the beginning, right? I wrote the goat section. Goat. Well, GOAT capital GOAT, if you don't know, stands for greatest of all time. It's like something amazingly awesome. This is beyond what you could have thought of. Obviously, in sports where rankings are purely based on numbers or any kind of other game where numbers win, GOAT would mean someone with the highest score ever in the history of mankind in that sport. But it's more like a feeling here than like a benchmark. So with that in mind, let me tell you why I think it's GOAT. So While PostgreSQL has a logo of an elephant, SQLite has a feather to show you. I think with the amount of work this thing can do, the logo could at least be a goat. I mean, I am playing on the word which also means the animal. I mean, elephant is a big, large thing, and goat is a small one, but it's definitely not as small as the feather, right? Now, SQLite doesn't always behave like a goat. Sometimes it feels like a goat. Greatest of all time. And why? Questions, why not? So SQLite is open source but is not open to modifications. And let's see, I think I have already, yeah, copyright. Is in public domain and open source, yeah. Open source, not open contribution. Is open source meaning that you can make as many copies of it as you want and do whatever you want with those copies without limitation. But SQLite is not open contribution. In order to keep SQLite in the public domain and ensure that the code does not become contaminated with the proprietary or licensed content, the project does not accept patches from people who have not submitted an affidavit dedicating their contribution into the public domain. This is awesome. Okay. So they have not deviated from the core principle, and it is not affected by thousands of requests to do something other than what the founders thought would be good enough. I mean, at least someone who has given them an affidavit, right? SQLite works on almost all known practical operating systems. When I say practical, I mean practical. I'm not expecting someone using Minix to have a SQLite distribution for them. So Mac OS, Linux, Windows, Android, iOS, BSDs, it's available for all of them. I mean, if you have a C compiler, you can compile it. If it works, I think it will work for most of them. And architectures. There is a dangling comma. I know that it works for these at least, so I can mention them. I am sure it can work on others as well. SQLite is embeddable and can work without specifying any configuration, although allows you to specify some. This is what I'm talking about, pragmas. SQLite stores everything in one file. Copy it, that's your backup, paste it, and it's restored. And that's it. There is no extra tool that you specifically need for backing up. It has support for transactions, foreign keys, joins, indexes, and it has full featured SQL and the entire feature set that's written here. Okay, it has JSON support, guys, and full text search. Wow, that's not light at all. It has tools to perform replication, watching differences between two databases, and has a CLI shell. We just use the CLI shell, right? It has drivers for every sensible, practical, and modern programming language. I mean, think of C. C, it's written in C, so C obviously they have the driver with the source code they have, right? Think of Go. You can do a C Go connection using another repository. You have a port that I am using. You try to use it with Java. You try to use it with Rust, Ruby, Python, PHP. I don't know any practical programming language that does not support SQLite. There has to be one driver or many, right? Offloads the authentication to you. So using it is super simple. You can put a wrapper of any kind of authentication you want, but you won't have to deal with I forgot the root password of the database. And I have been stuck in this kind. Luckily the database was small. It was more like I was toying with it. It was a development database for a project that I was working on, and I forgot the root password, the password to the Postgres user in PostgreSQL per se. And then the easiest way I found was to just create another database. I mean, remove everything, create another database, as in remove the database itself. I had to uninstall it, go to the data directory, let go of all the files, reinstall everything, create new database, create new users, everything from the scratch. And that was on Linux. And I was the idiot who didn't save the password for the root user elsewhere, and I didn't remember it. So that happened. That will never happen with SQLite. You want to protect your database, keep the database file somewhere secure. It's up to you. The authentication is up to you. So actually that is good in terms of manageability. If you don't have to remember any password to access the database, which is good and bad, because anyone can open the file and look into it. And it's good because you don't have to remember anything. You know the place where the file is protected using permission system from Unix, Windows, whatever you are using, and that's enough. So that is how it is. But my interest peaked when I read a Reddit post which mentioned an article whose title was searchcode.com. So I'm linked the article here. You can go and read it in your time, and it is by the person who actually wrote it. I mean, whose database is actually 6 terabytes, 6.4 TB. See, wow. And 6.4 TB, that's 6,400 gigabytes, one file. And if you go to searchcode.com, let's go to searchcode.com. Searchcode.com. I went there, and let's search for something like API key. Okay, this will probably reveal someone's API key because there are people who are idiots who have kept their API keys in their repos and they forgot about it. I don't know. How about printf? You're supposed to find something with that. Did enter not work? Okay, it worked. Right? And see, you have got loads of results and you have got filters over here, right? So that came out of a 6 terabyte file in how many seconds? I don't know how many seconds. Let's say system dot println. Okay, let's time it. Inspect, network, search. So where is this? Timings. It took 1 second. It took 1 second to give you. Okay, why do I have just two? System.println. Is it because of, I don't know, the capitalization? I don't think that would be the reason. Okay, still gives me 2 plus results. So anyway, it took 1 second to get back to me. And if I go back and say printf, again, this is the one. Waiting 181 ms queued, started, downloaded. So that's about 200 milliseconds or 400 milliseconds approximately, right? A little less than that. That's quite impressive for a 6 terabyte file, right? And you should go and use that site. I just did. It is faster than I expected. Honestly, I thought at least it would take at least a dozen seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. It's much faster than I hoped something backed by SQLite would be. And if that is not enough, and I seriously became a fan of this license that they have. If you open their license file, you will find this exact piece of text where they say the author disclaims copyright to this source code. In place of a legal notice, here is a blessing. And that just won over my heart, sorry, but this is too good. And it says, may you do good and not evil, may you find forgiveness for yourself and forgive others, may you share freely, never taking more than you give. This just won over my heart. I can't tell you how good it feels. Obviously BSD and MIT licenses, they are great as well, but they look and feel like legal notices, don't they? I mean, let's MIT license text. I guess this is a license. It is form of legalese, that legal language software is provided as is without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to the warranty or the merchantability. I mean, these two words themselves are pretty heavy. Fitness for a particular use and non-infringement. God, compare that to this. Isn't this awesome? So yeah, tell me that is not a goat move. I have never seen something like this. Okay, so that summarizes what are the pragmas I'm talking about. Like how do you set pragmas and why I like SQLite so far. Now let us go to the changes that we have done, and this is the PRI raised, and let's see the files. Okay, common.go, this is where I basically, so let me go to common.go. What have I done? I'll show you here. So basically what I did was I have created two functions, one for opening the database. Let me pull up the structure. There are two functions. Okay, and why is it showing everything? I don't know, is it showing package structure? I don't want package structure, just this file. Okay, so there are two functions here, set pragmas, and I should say set single pragma maybe. Oh no, sorry. This is the for setting all the pragmas for our connection that we want, and I'm trying to use it only for the commands where we are opening the database, not for the new command. So cp and rm, and yes, by the way, I made the rm command. It's not complete though. So open database basically takes the command that was passed. So let me go where it is being used. Go to cp. Whenever you say chamber, or the way I run it, go run main.go space cp, and then you do something. So you populate the cmd cobra command structure, and that gets passed down. We are looking for an environment variable, or was it passed in the as an option. So that happens, and the chamber path value is put in. It tries to figure out whether or not it was, whether or not password was supplied, and if yes, it tries to open the chamber file. We have gone through this, and it tries to check all the password, the existence of the file, and so on, right? So this is only for the places where we are reading the database, opening the database. For not creating the database, we are opening the database for modification, for inserting or deleting data. Sorry for that. Just a second, I should be drinking some water. Okay, set pragmas. Like I said, we have to set some rules, right? And I showed you how pragmas behave. So here are those rules and the settings. So we need to have the foreign keys on. Why? Because when I'm issuing the rm command, when I want to, and the reason I started with the rm command was I don't want to keep deleting my database every single time I want to test something. I want to be able to delete a file inside. So if I have readme and readme x.md, maybe I want to just delete this guy, and then I want to create another file which also says readme.md, readmex.md, sorry. So I can't keep deleting everything all the time, right? So let me build the rm command. That is where it started from. But if you're trying to remove something from fs index without setting the enabling foreign key behavior, then you'll have to go to first the file blobs, and then you have to go here, and if it's a large file, search all the entries by inode, and then delete those, and then come back to fs index, and then do it here. And that is basically stupid for our use case, because we have just two tables. Why should I write so much of code by hand when the database can do it itself, right? So I started with, sorry, here, common.go, common_.go. So I'm setting the foreign keys. So what it does is get pragma foreign key. Let's go there, and I've got pragmas. Let's sort it alphabetically. I don't know, does it say? Yeah. So I've got 4 gets and 4 sets, and I have got one non-exported get pragma value and one non-exported set pragma value. These are the values, I mean functions that power the other getters and setters. So what does get pragma foreign key do? Get pragma value, it calls it, and in this case we are sending foreign underscore keys, which is the pragma name that we want to get the value of, right? You can see what happens. Pragma value, we are setting the result to blank here. The query is simple, pragma space and whatever came in. So then we query it, get a row, it was there an error. If no, scan the result into pragma value. Again, this is expecting a single value. Okay, it's not expecting multiple entries in the result. So I'm just doing a row dot scan. Actually, it should be rows, but fine. Get the first one, scan it, input the value in here, return the value. That's what it does. So it will give me the value and I'll use it. Where did it go? Come on. And what is the value? Is the value equal to foreign keys on, which is 1? Remember, the foreign key value comes back at 0 or 1. And you can see I'm using a string, right? Is it set? No. Okay, let me try to set it. I was doing a print of foreign key value is not as expected, but I guess it is redundant with all the error handling thrown in. So we are trying to set the value to foreign keys on, which is 1. And pragma foreign key is the result. Let's see what it does. It checks whether or not, the possible values. It has a switch for what you passed, and it must be one of the possible values, or else it's gonna return with an error saying that, hey, I don't know what you're trying to pass. This is a guard that I have put in from my side. Again, for any of these, it basically sends the on one, the on and off values to be set, and it expects back 1 or 0. So this was when I was writing. I could very well would have used just these two, which is fine, which also works, but it uses set pragma value. And what it does is, now I'll show you, this is a bit of a redundancy, there is a bit of a redundancy in there. So fmt sprintf pragma percentage is equal to percentage s, which basically says something like this. So the pragma key and pragma value, pragma name and pragma value, and we are trying to execute, check if there is an error, and if there was no error, let's verify it again. And pragma s, we are just trying to check whether the pragma value that we wanted to set has been set or not. So I'm checking if the new value that I got after querying back is equal to the expected value or not here. If it is not, we are going to say error, and otherwise we are returning without an error. It should be nil. Lovely. So that was for set pragma foreign key, and I have created the same thing for synchronous. I have set the same thing for journal mode and locking. I have no idea why this is grayed out when it is clearly being used. You can see it is being used. Okay, so what am I doing in set pragmas? I'll just give you an example of the foreign keys and run through the rest of the pragmas. So pragma settings that I'm doing. So I'm enabling foreign keys, and the redundancy that I talked about is here. I am checking it again at this place, which is not really required. I can get rid of it. We'll do it later. This is again a remnant of how I started coding and moved code around and modularized. So we can remove this, not a problem. Let me remove it actually. Dogs are barking outside. Okay. Pragma foreign key, I'm checking whether I'm trying to set it to foreign keys on if it is not already set. The same thing is for journal mode, where I'm trying to set it to truncate. I'm trying to set synchronous on. I can also do it for extra, which would make sense. I guess synchronous is on or off. I could have extra. 1 minute. Let me check. Pragma function synchronous had an extra. I can use extra. Let me put that in off, normal, full, extra. Off. Oh, this is. I need it full. Now I've done off. Okay. Good enough. Off, normal, full, and extra. So off is 0, normal is 1, full is 2, and extra is 3. This is 3 and this is 2. Lovely. Let's move these in order and let's go to the place it is being called. So yeah, this is another way, a different way of doing the same thing as I'm doing here, but this time I'm trying to use the very value. So if you take the value and I'm checking whether it is exactly as I'm expecting. So I'm just, if it is equal to 1, I mean, just send 1, it works, right? We have already seen that. So we can have off, we can have normal. Let's move it from there to here, and we can also do it for the other two. Normal, we can say full, and extra, and that should be good enough, right? So set pragma synchronous. Good thing I just got it. And where did it go? Common, let's go right. So I'm trying to set it to normal. I actually need it at full, and check whether it is at full or not. Yeah, good enough. And I'm setting the locking mode to exclusive. Exclusive is for exclusive, right? And what does exclusive do? Locking mode. So we have to look at the pragma for locking mode. What it basically does is it allows you to use the database file exclusively, so that a second process trying to use that file will not be able to use it while it is open in your process, in your tool, in this case chamber. So when chamber starts, we want to have control over the chamber file completely. We don't want someone else, some other application trying to read it as a SQLite database and modifying it. We don't want that. At least for now, that's the behavior that I want. So I'm setting it to exclusive. In normal locking mode, the default unless overridden in compile time, a database connection unlocks the database file at the conclusion of each read or write transaction. When the locking mode is set to exclusive, the database connection never releases file locks. The first time the database is read in exclusive mode, a shared lock is obtained and held. The first time the database is written, an exclusive lock is obtained and held. Okay. Database locks contained by a connection in exclusive mode may be released either by closing the database connection or by setting the locking mode back to normal using this pragma and then accessing the database file for read or write. Simply setting the locking mode to normal is not enough. Locks are not released until the next time the database file is accessed, which means you have to do some kind of transaction on it. Nice. So you can read the details later. Let's go back. So I have used set pragmas and the open database at a couple of places. That is an RM, and it just says RM called. So if I go back here and let me clear this up and say go run line.go chamber file, password is password, rm, and see I'm not taking any parameters yet. So I'll go back to CP and say, I want to have one parameter. Here as well, I have done this. I have removed all of that code and moved them to open database and set pragmas. So that, whenever I launch the program with any of these, the standard behavior that I'm expecting to be there, for example, the journal mode being set to delete or truncate. I think it's truncate right now, and the foreign keys being enabled and synchronous mode to be full. Those things are already set, so I don't have to worry about what I'm doing here. I know that either something bad happened and we exited. I mean, if there was an error trying to set those options, uh, or if we are here, then those behaviors are already set and they will be honored. So now in case of rm, I know that if I just delete the fs index, the blobs will also be deleted because they are in a foreign key, right? So let's go to rm and copy that. Say if len arg is not equal to 1, we will put a different one here and say rm requires exactly one argument. These many were supplied. Lovely. And let's try to read it. I won't do all of that. Copy direction in, services.copy out. We'll have to build the rm1. I haven't really built that. So okay, let me try to do that in this call itself. There is no copy out, and the error is not new either. So if error is not blank, instead what? Oh, cannot find a declaration to go. Okay, I have not imported that. So this is app error dot type. Let's try if error dot is. Okay, we declared it as let's say app error. It's not blank. Could not remove file. Run the error. Get out of here. Instead of copy out, I'll just say arg0. We know that there is at least one stuff here. Not enough arguments to call and copy out. Definitely so. Now instead of cp, let me create a new file which is called rm. Oh, why is rm already there? Rm is already there. Let me remove this, close vendor here. Rm, let me try to copy this, and let's say this is called remove, just call remove. Okay, there's no from string to string, we'll just say path. Remember when I say path, I basically have not implemented the recursive copying, so this path for now will have to stay as a single file when actually trying it. So alright, which brings me back to foreign keys. Parent node should actually be a foreign key to itself, and if I delete a inode, all the children should also be deleted, right? For a folder. Okay, we will do the recursive thing when we build, recursive capabilities into CP, and that is the time we should be building it into RM as well. For now, let us just issue the command for. Okay, let's copy this, and has to have a prefix that says chamber. We don't want to be deleting files on file system using chamber as a tool. Ensure no leading slash. Yes, this is also going to be useful. Let's start chamber. It should exist. Let's put that into RM. So if it is not, chamber file is not open, the first pass must exist. File protocol, remove that, and let's take path and say path here. Okay, else return an error. Source path must start with chamber. From equal to, we'll say path equal to, ensure no leading path from start chamber at this place. And let's go back to CP. What have we done? I guess we can take this and refactor it later, not now. That would be too much of. That is the kind of thing that comes into a software engineer's head, right? That let's make the code more usable. But what we will do is when we are debugging, we'll be getting headaches, more headaches than normal. I mean, just isolating this is not going to get us a prize or something in such a small code base. So I'm going to leave that as it is for RM as well. Okay. Start chamber. If error is blank and fs index entry inode is 0, which means that file is present, right? Otherwise it's an error, right? So file at path must be present for this to have happened. We can delete the file now. Okay, and in the else we will have to say there was some error, right, with this. Maybe it does not exist. What am I doing here? Let me check. I'm just saying, what is this? This for should copy, is it? Okay. Copying. So sorry, this is copy out. These don't apply here. Okay, so else we have got a problem. Either this is not blank or this is not 0. In what cases is it not blank? I mean, maybe we can let go of this, right? Let me check. If it is not blank and fs index is 0, fs index stays unassigned, single entry, fs index stays unassigned. Okay, we have to fix this as well. Let me put in a note. To fix this case of recursive Oh, sorry. Fine enough. So if it is blank and inode is 0, else we will. So this is something that can be done. I think I was handling it well in CP. If the error was not a blank. Yeah, that is fine. I mean, the only reason, only time you will hit this is when, so when, the only potential downside of it doing it this way than doing the else part is there might be a time when error dot is blank returns. I mean, is not blank is true, which means the error, there was some error. Sorry, there was no error, and the file index entry was not 1. I mean, sorry, not 0, right? So if there was no error and inode was equal to 0, nothing happens. I mean, you can't delete, and inode 0 is for the root directory inside chamber file, so you can't delete the root directory per se. I mean, you should not be allowed to. Speaking of which, am I doing the entry in fs index for root? I am not, but okay, fine. Doesn't matter a lot at this stage. And this was where I was actually checking whether or not things behave the same way here and in the console, and they do. I mean, why won't they? So file path must represent for this to have happened. Let's change this, and it will say could not delete or could not remove the error, and that's fine. And if error is not blank, so I guess we can return, right? I think I'm stupid for writing it this way. Let me stay stupid for now. Error dot blank error. And what is blank error? Blank error is being initialized by init, which says level is unknown, code is 0000, and message is empty string, right? So it will return a copy of that. All right, now we have to write the removal logic. How am I going to do it in CP? I have done all of the code here, and I must be calling the models. Yeah, models here. So instead of calling file blob and everything, I am just going to call the model for fs index. So let me try that. And models dot file fs index, sorry, fs index DAO. I'll explain what DAO is. Dot remove fs index entry. Entry. What does it say? Remove unhandled error. Okay, fine. Let me do that. Now, why is the problem? Cannot use as fs index. Oh, maybe I should use this. Fine. So error. Where is this error? Start chamber. What is it returning? Let me call it app error. Start error. Okay. In fact, I think I should just say app error, because that is the type. And if the app error is blank, I mean, that way we can reuse it, right? So we are going to remove this. What does remove do? Just have a look. Delete from fs index where inode is equal to $1. What is $1? fs index.inode. So whatever you send here, that entry's inode is what will get into the query, and we'll try to remove it. With the foreign keys in place, it should also delete the file blob. We'll test that. And that's it, right? I mean, if error is not nil, let's return something like this. Return new error. The is here, could not remove. Error is here this time. D I error. Nice. Is there anything else that we are gonna encounter here? I don't think so. So let's now call remove in our RM file in CMD. Let's call it remove. Nice. I don't know if I updated this or not. Let me try that. Now if I go here and just run it again, it should cry saying that requires exactly one argument, 0 is supplied. Let me try with something as the argument. Error could not remove file. Bro, it should have said that string does not have prefix. Has prefix. Then do this. Source path must start with chamber. Why didn't it come back and say that? Oh, I'm trying to print error. I should be printing app error. Right. Let me try again. The source path must start with chamber. Lovely. So let me say chamber : // we know that Vaibhav.txt does not exist. Let me try that. Could not find the entry. No rows in result set as expected. Let me now try chamber. What if I have a leading slash and I say Vaibhav.txt again? It should come back saying something similar. Yeah, same thing. Now let me say readme2.txt slash readme. What was the entry? X dot readme x dot md. Let's try rm code, which means it succeeded. Let me check. Gone. Let's go to file blobs. Gone. Yes. Setting foreign keys works. By the way, I also created the rm command. Nice. So I don't know, should I actually push it into setting pragma directives? Alright, I'll push it in gtcp, and let's call it rm command build, and added remaining options for what was the pragma directive that I was going to, for full and extra, right? Remaining options for synchronous pragma. I think that should be it. Okay, password. Done. Visit the existing pull request. Let's go there and added one more commit. Files 11, file changed is 11. There are 2 comments. Lovely. And we can go back and let's check whether or not we have. What happened? Oh, it's still rendering. Rendering. Oh wow. Okay, that's weird. After rendering this, I got the other one. So common pragma values, we have got yes, all that we wanted. And the main file has got changes, yes. RM was created, stat should have gotten the to do, yes. So it looks good. We just tested most of the behavior, it is also working. We will merge it. Create merge commit. Create merge commit. So this gets into the main. Lovely. Now main is updated. I can go and say git check out main and check that out. Git pull and oh my god. Always allow, please. Lovely. So I have got all of that in my main branch. I have solved one, closed the ticket. Let's see if for Geo allows 3 to be closed. Closed automatically. Wow. Event 65 close this issue. What? Why? It should tell that it got closed because of this. Maybe that those are the things they're working on now. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Yes, I'll catch up again later. Bye.